Finally, Spar Talk Season 2. Am I right, Pitts?
Finally, indeed, you're right, Jack. But hang on. The election was 2 weeks ago. Okay, on November 1st, 2 days before the election, we had a Trump voter, a Biden voter, and a third-party voter on video to discuss their political anxieties in the year 2020. But the point was that everyone would turn to us, a rebooted, sparsely posted YouTube podcast, to get their news. But you even said that it wouldn't be proper to post the video after Election Day.
Oh, come on. It was the perfect plan, except I forgot one thing.
Okay, what's that?
The very nature of video editing.
Well,
especially conferencing from 3 to 4 video and audio sources across 2 continents. Look, we talked for a long time.
We did.
We had some great drinks, some fun, and debated some issues. What my goal is in editing it down is presenting everyone at their best and showing the viewer or the listener, if you're on one of our audio-only platforms, authentic, hopefully engaging, but always congenial discussion. It also gave me the opportunity to get together a few links that were brought up during the talk, assess in the time between CNN and AP calling Michigan for Joe Biden, whether there would be open insurrections outside of Cobo and probably through the rest of Detroit, and figure out the regular rapid testing that is the source of my mini rant this time.
Okay, well, no insurrection, so that's good news so far, yes. I guess. I will say, Jack, it is now called the TCF Center, not Cobo Hall.
Of course, yes. They replaced the name of that racist politician with that ancient, faceless banking institution.
Well, baby steps, Jack, baby steps.
All right.
But I'm going to have to get tested in Detroit myself pretty soon. What did you find out about testing?
Walgreens, Pitts. Yes. If you're in Detroit, there is one free rapid COVID-19 test that I was able to find, and it's Walgreens on 15516 Grand River Avenue. It's not on maps as a Walgreens, but go to the Walgreens website and make an appointment. It's drive-through only. I cannot emphasize this enough, especially if you are a working person in the city. You should take regular rapid tests. It's the only way that we're going to get the numbers down if we take asymptomatic people out of the workforce.
Safety first.
Safety first. My mother's actually still waiting on her results 2 weeks after she took a test.
Well, tell her my safety first line. I came up with that.
I will say safety first next time I talk to her. Pitt says safety first.
Yeah.
The city of Detroit, where I checked, is still out of them, and there are still several walk-in clinics and drive-through testing sites that are charging up to $100 for a rapid test and $50 for a test that takes up to 7 days to get the results. And I still maintain that everyone involved in profiting off of those should be in prison. But you will see more of my thoughts and debate about it later in the video.
Well, Walgreens. Wow. I mean, I've always been more of a CVS guy myself, but it sounds like I might have to reevaluate some of that.
Dr. Sevius, dude.
Mm-hmm. So, Jack, are you going to make an appointment?
Well, I actually had a little corona scare, or I should say COVID scare, and I just got back from taking a rapid test. It took about an hour to get results, and the results will be announced at the end of this video.
What a hook! We'll definitely net at least everyone that you've interacted with in the past 2 weeks.
Always thinking. I interacted with a lot of people too.
You do, lots of people.
Yes. But yeah, I'm always thinking, like, what even is soreness? Can you feel it psychosomatically?
So without further ado,
or like from being too active or not active enough?
Spar Talk, Season 2, Episode 1, 2020.
but
Yeah, I was hoping to talk about sex and religion, and here I'm having to talk about murderers.
it's just politics today, which is mainly murderers. I'm sorry to say. The first episode, he toasted to make America great again, so you can toast to that.
Sex, politics, and religion.
Yeah,
What's the first one?
Yeah, right.
Right.
Today's the
It's
fourth
mainly
episode of
sex.
the Sex, Politics, and Religion Spar podcast.
No, as a moderator, I just have to step in and say you're both white as fuck.
Sometimes we time our rituals to face the moon.
Whoever drinks alcohol would be deprived So after begging him to just repent after the podcast,
Welcome all to Spa Talk, a podcast talk show about sex, politics, and religion. From a working class salt of the earth shooting the shit at the bar perspective. And although we're not at the bar today, not in a studio, not strictly speaking breaking bread, our salt will nonetheless still shoot shit. And we'll have a couple of rounds doing it. I'm Jack Dalton, your thoroughly entrenched moderator, and today, for the premiere of our second season, I thought I'd introduce our first ever co-host. In lieu of a bartender, zooming in from the capital of the EU, Brussels, Belgium. We have a friend from across the ocean, formerly host of Improv Detroit, Alex Pitts. Pitts, it's been a long time. How's Brussels treating you?
Thank you for having me, Jack. Happy to be here. Brussels is treating me okay, considering we have the second highest number of cases per day in all of Europe, and we're entering our second lockdown tomorrow. But other than that, I'm pretty happy, feeling good. But I gotta ask, what's going on with your mask? It's pretty odd.
Oh, do you like it? Thoroughly researched all of the masks available and designed one specifically to comply with CDC and Dr. Fauci's recommendations. As you can see, there is no way that this mask can slip under my nose. And it's also modeled after my write-in candidate for the 2020 presidential election, Tom Hardy's Bane from Dark Knight Rises.
Okay, I have a lot of questions. First of all, how and why do you write in a fictional character on your ballot? Like, how does that work?
Tom Hardy's middle name Bane, last name from Dark Knight Rises.
But you know he's not it's a fictional character.
Well, I mean, what's the point? What do you want me to write in? Bernie Sanders?
Okay, it's your right. It's your right to vote however you want.
Populist hero. It sends a message.
Wasn't he like a terrorist? Didn't he like take over the city by force?
No, he was the hero of that story. That was the most famous Batman villain film. Batman's a villain.
I guess I must have misunderstood the movie. But with the math, you can't catch coronavirus through a Zoom call, right? Like do you just wear it?
Dr. Fauci has ordained upon us that the great virus can strike anywhere, at any time. And if I should need food or drink, I have a hose to pump protein shake in my face. Check it out.
I'm checking it out.
Coca mocha. Yes.
Okay, look, Jack, it's like it's really hard to hear you, and considering this is all about discussion, could you maybe lose the mask for just an hour or two? Why don't we talk about our sponsor for the week? It's coronavirus, Corona beer, Corona Cerveza.
All right. Well, I guess I will need that too. Yeah, there's no good way to have this with the mask. I guess I'm trusting you, Pitts.
Because you're an old friend, but just do me a favor and try not to breathe directly into the camera.
Do my best.
Okay, thank you. We also have our audio and now video technician, Gabriel Banis, only other person, and this is true, has been with us since episode 1, season 1. And Gabe and I are the only ones that are in the same location. Everybody else is talking remotely in a Zoom call. So yeah, thanks, Gabe.
I told you Bane mask or no deal, so I had to improvise.
Okay, cool. He's kind of a henchman, a little bit. So today we have 3 panelists, and there's only one distinction between them, and that pertains to today's topic, which we will get into. But in the meantime, let me introduce our Trump voter, athlete, entrepreneur, and autism self-advocate, Andrew Ackner. Andrew is someone, let me select you, as someone in a cohort consistently speculating on whether they're on the spectrum, and as someone who, all else aside, tends to get along with those that are. I enthusiastically welcome you to our panel.
Thanks, man. Great to be here.
Next, we have a friend of mine with proper working class bona fides, a Warren voter in the primary, but a Biden voter in the general, which may or may not equate to a lady in the sheets in the streets and a freak in the sheets. Anthony Henderson. Anthony, how you doing?
I'm well, Jack. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for doing it.
Yes.
And lastly, we have a last minute fill-in. Mike Saliba, which is the Libertarian candidate for Michigan's 9th district for representative, and a Joe Jorgensen voter. Mike, thanks so much for filling in so last minute.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And before you ask, we did approach Greens to be part of this, and we even approached a non-voter to be part of that, but they both spaced on the date. Then you know what, Pitts?
Yeah.
We forgot to do the news segment today.
I was going to ask you, and I thought maybe you would cut it out. And also thought you were going to send me what news you wanted to talk about.
No, I completely, I talked about the green voters and the non-voter space in the day. We completely spaced on, let's just actually turn it back to the panel. Was there any news today that anybody would like to, that anybody noticed or like to bring up?
I mean, I'll say, I don't think the news has been pretty boring lately. There's not very much going on in the world.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. It's pretty, it's like, I would like something, to pay attention to for once, it seems like everything's just kind of well handled.
Yeah.
Lately. Yeah. So, we don't have to worry about it.
Well, let's see what the panel think.
But yeah, I mean, and this topic's really topical anyway. Does anybody else have something that they wanted to bring up off the bat in terms of current events? Mike?
Rest in peace, Sean Connery.
Oh yeah, Sean Connery. Connery died.
Notorious wife slapper and Sean Connery. Notorious
wife slapper, the best James Bond, and Mr. Universe. But yeah, he got canceled in like the 80s and everybody forgot about it. Is the one thing that I remembered about.
One of the first cancels.
One of the first cancels, and now permanently canceled. But anyway, we'll move on. Rip Sean Connery, R.I.P. So let's move on to our mini rant. And for our mini rant today, and this is a segment that I've fueled with sheer exasperation, but today I kept up out of necessity. I'm going to talk about COVID testing in this country. Just in passing, I've talked to fathers of high school football players, military employees, and service industry professionals who have gone back to work without readily available same-day testing. Despite exploding numbers of cases and deaths, despite the closure and regulation of millions of venues, businesses, multi-month lockdowns that we've all endured, it was with the understanding that federal and state governments would get necessary testing the fuck together. I don't want to do this forever. No parties, masks on everyone, and where and when anyone fails, infection numbers beyond a reckoning spike like crazy. As a bartender who has helped set up a bar in the middle of the street and a grocery store, what the fuck is the government doing right now? I posted about making decent testing available in April. 6 months later, the only help I've seen is the city of Detroit providing free rapid tests for service industry folks and school workers and cops. It takes like 20 minutes to get results, and they run out all the time. And then last time I called and almost booked it before saying this is a rapid test, right? And it was like that old story where, you know, a girl you took out last night, you visit their parents and they say that this person's been dead for 25 years. No, this takes 7 days to get results, she tells me. Oh, well, I work 5 days a week, so that's less than useless to me. Thanks anyway. Which, by the way, they get that figure as an average between 5 and 10 days or 1 to 2 business weeks. Sometimes it takes less, sometimes it takes 2 weeks, but the fact that that's the wait completely discourages asymptomatic people who generally don't need a test to take it. And don't tell me some of the tests are more expensive, because I know we're spending millions at least on these other tests that are hot garbage. Stop buying them. There's no point for an asymptomatic person to take one if they have to wait 7 days. And those are the people that we need to quarantine once in a while. Just buy the same day tests, make them free on every corner, and rack up the appointments. Also, don't tell me there's a shortage of rapid tests. They're being sold through windows with lines around the blocks for $100 a pop. Those people should be in jail, and the government should be the only client to the manufacturers. Anyone who wants a test can get a test. That's what Donald Trump said on March 6th. And while that was a lie then, unfortunately, it's still a lie now. And we have a Democrat governor, so I can say it's both parties' faults, but it's more that everyone is just stupid. If a candidate had run on basic free testing and delivered it in May, the numbers would explode, then go down, and the candidate would win in a landslide. Apparently, Michigan is just now, with 200,000 cases, Michigan is being sent 3 million rapid tests. Obviously, it's too little too late, but if it isn't distributed properly, we'll have wasted the opportunity again. However this ends up, I've never had a hope for a vaccine, only testing. And right now, and possibly for the foreseeable future, we're only treading water. So, Pitts, that's my mini rant today. Well, you got one?
I gotta say, that rings like all too true with me. Okay, just like strap in, bear with me for this, okay? First, the Belgian government gives my company more money to pay me extra money per month because I'm working from home, okay? Like, we have a budget we have to keep, you know? Like, it's not like, what am I supposed to do with all this extra money anyway? Everything was closed. So I ended up saving all this money. Now I have all this extra money, and like, but when am I supposed to use my 30 days of paid vacation? And when I have all this money, like, what am I supposed to do with all this? You know, just let me go out and spend it, and let me like book trips and stuff, you know? I mean, okay, like I did use some of it after we opened up in June when our cases went down and everything was safe and everything was better, but it wasn't nearly as fun. And one of my trips actually got canceled, and it took the airline like a month to refund me. Just like absolutely atrocious. I only got to take one vacation this summer, okay? Now all of a sudden we're going back into a lockdown. We only had 4 months with minimal cases to enjoy the summer. What kind of summer is that, right? But honestly, with the testing, that's where I feel you the most, okay? Because did I tell you I had a COVID scare like 3 weeks ago? Listen to this, okay? I went on a Sunday. On a Sunday, I went to a game night with 3 other people, right? We played a game, we had some drinks, we had some fun, great time. That Wednesday, I find out one of them has symptoms, okay? So now I have to get tested. So even though I feel fine, on Thursday, I had to call like 10 different doctor's offices before I got a hold of a doctor. And she didn't even let me come into the office. She just had me download our national contact tracing app, and she approved my test through the app. So then the next day I have to go take a tram for 15 minutes to get to the testing center. I had to wait in line for 45 minutes. And then I had to let them scan my phone to make sure that I was allowed to get a test. And then I had to wait until the next day to get my results. Okay. So, and they didn't even have the courtesy to call me. I had to wake up Saturday morning and check the app myself to see that I didn't have COVID. I don't think I'll ever get over this, honestly.
It's awful, man. I'm sorry. You think you'll leave the country?
No way.
Okay, well, maybe when things open up a little bit, I can, maybe I can come stay with you sometime.
Maybe. We'll see how things play out.
I miss you, man. That's what I'm saying. I miss you.
I miss you too.
But okay, so with all that out of the way, we can finally introduce our sponsor, Corona. This is a great beer that's had a hard year, to say the least. Its searches were way down. Well, they were way up, but for a different thing. The company was successful in petitioning the WHO to change the name to COVID-19, but its image still needs some rehabilitation, which is why they approached us to sponsor today's episode. Pitts, how are you enjoying your Corona today?
I'm enjoying mine. I just had a couple sips so far, but I'm going to make a cocktail. I wanted something that I could do relatively easily. So it's a Corona sour. It's actually just a whiskey sour with Corona on top. So I am going to prepare that now. Let me just get my other camera ready.
And for the other panelists, just know that we're going, part of our thing to promote local businesses and of course, Corona. I don't know if they have a saying, the world's tonic. That's a pretty good one. So we're going to be preparing these drinks on a different camera for a second. So Pitts is going to do that right now.
Yep. So I've got my Jim Beam bourbon because I'm a working class man. I don't have the money for anything fancy, and I don't need anything fancy.
I like Jim Beam.
I like Jim Beam too. I got lemon and lime. I got agave syrup instead of simple syrup because it's what I have on hand. I don't keep sugar in the house. And ready to do that. So I'm just going to measure this stuff out.
Okay.
We got.
I'm going to start recording my thing too.
Okay.
Keep on going.
All right. I got 3/4 ounce of each juice. And then I'm gonna. All right. Just. Not really, don't have much to say while I'm making the drink. Just did the lime juice, doing the lemon juice, using my nice little...
What are you mixing it into?
I'm mixing them into a shaker that I was given as a gift for my 30th birthday last year. It was a whole... Which I was wanting to get one for myself for a long time, and then someone did it for me, which is great. So I just did the lemon and lime. I need the agave. And it might be a little weird to use agave instead of simple syrup, but I'm willing to try it. I also haven't made this drink before, so when I take my first sip, we will see live on air whether this is good or not.
Well, no, of course you'll like it because it's got Corona, the world's tonic.
Right, yes, of course, you're right.
Yeah.
I guess I was just thinking of maybe the agave will mess it all up, but I'm sure Corona will mix well with anything.
I think so.
Okay. I also don't have an ice cube tray because they're not big on ice here, so I used an egg holder to make ice.
Oh, crap. I need ice for mine, too. One second.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, just getting the ice ready. I'm gonna shake it up nice. Okay.
Luckily, I always keep some trays handy.
You know, I'm going to use the ice that I shook with to pour into the drink, actually, not straight. Okay, here we go.
All right.
So there is that's just the whiskey sour. And now all I got to do is pour Corona over it.
All right.
See how it goes. Okay. How's your
All right, and actually don't sip it yet because we're going to do our toast.
I'm
gonna
saving for the toast.
Okay, great. I'm about to prepare mine and Gabe's micheladas. I got my Corona today from my favorite taqueria. It's around the corner from me, and it's called La Jalisciense. And they got their liquor license in the course thing, and I helped them set up their bar. So first thing, I'm going to use their recipe too that we do there. We sell a lot of these things. So first off, I've got Clamato. It's a good cocktail mix, tomato juice. I actually don't really like real tomato juice that much. Oh. I forgot I got to rim it. So I'm gonna rim the glasses with some tahini, which is like a chili sauce. And I got a juicer for a bunch of limes here. But I'm gonna pour a little into this side dish, maybe like one lime. I'm gonna take my tahini here, just pops off.
And Jack, what is tahini?
It's like a chili powder.
Okay. You had a nice little container there that's made for rimming glasses, yeah?
Yes, it's the company itself puts it out. So I'm gonna rim mine, and then I'm gonna rim Gabe's, and I already have the Clamato in one. About to put the Clamato in the other one.
Okay.
Then I get fun with it. Worcestershire sauce.
Oh my goodness.
Drops in each. This Maggi Jugo.
And what's that?
It's also like cooking. It just makes things tasty. So just a little bit. I like my stuff really savory. In fact, they have a special asada sauce at the taqueria. So I stole a little bit of that. Just a little whiff of that is good. Then some salt. Just a bar spoon of salt.
That's going right into the drink?
That's going right into the drink.
Wow.
I can mix it up with the bar spoon a little bit.
Look out, arteries, right?
Well, yeah. That's fair. But, Pitts, these days we gotta live a little,
You are so right, my friend.
And then I'm gonna take 3 limes. I'm cutting up 3 limes here.
Didn't think to cut those before the podcast, huh?
No, I didn't. Well, even in the taqueria, I didn't choose the best knife. Even at the taqueria, we kind of just cut everything fresh right as we go. We do mix up the rest of these in a premix. Okay, the limes are done. So I'm gonna do an ounce or a lime and a half each. 3 halves. That was the knife. I don't need it anymore.
Okay, and you're using a citrus squeezer to squeeze the juice there.
Yes, sir.
Very nice thing to have on hand. I just used store-bought, pre-squeezed, and now I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of these.
Well, yeah, that's another thing I really kind of tried to set up in the taqueria is that like instead of certain ingredients, we just say like 1 lime, and we have a great juicer, like a single press. Mm-hmm. So at that point, you open both of your Coronas and you pour.
Now you're pouring pretty fast. You're going to see a lot of head there.
You know what? I think maybe it's the ingredients or whatever, but you can pour a little faster in these. I'm seeing a little head, but like nothing crazy. And then I'm going to give a couple ice cubes to each. Gabe, you looking forward to these?
Oh, yeah, buddy.
Oh, yeah. And then we've got the finishing touch, which is these tamarind candies that are also straw.
I can tell you it smells great.
Thank you.
I wish I could have one of those.
So now my one camera can see them pretty good. Now you guys can see them pretty good. And it's delicious, and like you eat the tamarind candy like kind of as you go. So I'm gonna give this one to Gabe. Yeah, no problem. I'll cheers you in the video. We're not gonna cheers here. That wouldn't be nice. That wouldn't be proper.
No. In the video.
In the video. With that out of the way, it looks delicious. Pits, yours too, by the way. I just want to make it clear again, Corona Cerveza or beer has no association whatsoever with the spread of novel coronavirus COVID-19. Any suggestion to the contrary from publications such as the Daily Stormer are erroneous at best. But it is just an enjoyable beverage with no infectious properties, unless, of course, you're talking about its smooth, malty flavor, which has infected the palates from all around the world. I'm going to quit while I'm ahead there. So, from Detroit to Brussels, everyone can have a little Corona. That's not good either.
No.
So let's move on to our toast. Needless to say, our problems today are uniquely problematic, which is a tautology I never thought I'd employ, but I'm afraid that any attempt at a hopeful or optimistic sentiment here would ring false. I think we all know that. So if you'll raise your glasses for our toast today, I'd like to offer up an old Irish saying that Pitts and myself picked out, because if there's any group of people who know how to toast a national tragedy, it's the Irish. There's nothing so bad that it couldn't be worse.
Cheers.
Tink. Whew. Good.
Not bad.
I like it.
Not bad.
You like it, Gabe?
Yeah, it's good.
Awesome. Does anybody, before we move on to the subtopics, does anybody want to say anything about their beverage? No.
I just want to ask Pitts if he ever puts egg whites in his whiskey sours.
Yeah.
I haven't. I've had them, and it's very good. I actually, I did try with the egg white. My first, even though I was a bartender for years, it wasn't a fancy place. So my first attempt was a few months ago using the egg whites for the foam and stuff. Pretty good. Very classy.
All right. I want to start the way we ended the season 1, episode 1, 2016, ... This topic today is called 2020, ... And it's basically the way I set it up originally. This show is that I wanted to do kind of a panel of people that disagreed, basically, and I was inspired by the McLaughlin Group. I don't know if you guys ever watched the McLaughlin Group. It's still a show, but the main guy who was named after has died. John McLaughlin. He died in 2016. It was another thing that it was known for in 2016. He was one of those 2016 deaths. And so I thought I'd tie it in with the 2016 thing. But, they kept it going with the new host, Tom Rogan, and they end every episode with predictions. They just say predictions. And everybody goes around and they say something that they think will happen that might be like, might be surprising, maybe not so surprising. But I think we should start it with predictions this time because, we're 2 days away from the election, and I think everybody probably has an idea of what might happen, even if they don't, even if they're nervous or don't know or are hedging their bets or whatever. So I think I want to start with. Let's start with Andrew. Andrew, what is your prediction of what will happen this week?
So my prediction is Donald Trump will get reelected. It'll be a close one, but it's hard to gauge with everything going on. But I think Trump will win.
How will he do it in swing states or in the courts or both or?
Oh, that's an even tougher one. I think in the swing states, but it'll be close with everything going on.
Anthony, what's your prediction of what's going to happen this week?
I'm predicting Biden will win, but more importantly, I'm predicting that the coronavirus will go out of control this week.
Yes,
it's already out of control.
Already has, kind of, right?
Yeah, but I think death totals will come up and scare the crap out of everyone.
Yeah, my prediction was Biden's going to win. It's going to be a landslide in the popular, close in the Electoral College. And that being said, I think corona cases might start to spike, but deaths are going to remain very low, and it's going to fizzle out within a couple of weeks of the election.
How do you think, I should ask, how do you think JoJo's going to do?
I'm seeing better numbers than I was expecting, but I think it's going to come in probably lower than Gary Johnson did in 2016, but hopefully better in some more key states. And where I'm seeing some of the states where Trump is losing voters, I think she's actually gaining some. It's going to be a little bit closer to spoiler than usual, and that's what we'd like to see.
For the listener, JoJo being Joe Jorgensen, the Libertarian candidate running for president.
Yes, thank you for the clarification.
JoJo. 5% is the magic number that we're always shooting to get the sort of matching funds from the federal government that the other two teams do get, even though we don't like stuff from the federal government. We might as well have an even playing field.
Well,
back in the day, what it was, 5% was the setup sort of threshold for a while to get into the debates. What happened was back in 92, Ross Perot, not a libertarian, was polling at about 2%, but had a big enough campaign and he was allowed into the debates, ended up with 18% of the general vote.
Yeah.
That's up from 2% to 18% just by being in the debates. Gary Johnson, for him, they set the bar at 15% to get into the debates. He was polling at 10% before the debates, only wound up with about 3.4% of the vote. But you can imagine what that bump is like. If being in the debates is enough to go from 2% to 18%, Gary Johnson was at 10% before the debates. What could that bump have been? Could be looking at a totally different situation right now than we previously had.
Right. I think with that, we could probably move on to our next subtopic, or subtopic, I guess.
Caveat prediction. Go ahead. Any widespread recounts, Trump will win.
Interesting.
Okay, everybody gets a caveat prediction now.
No, we can fit it into the subsequent things, Pitts. I think we got to keep it going, keep it chugging. You got the next question, right?
Yep. So I wanted to talk to everybody and ask, why are you voting the way that you are? Why are you voting for this candidate? Why are you voting for this party? And and how effective do you think it'll be in the state and when it comes to the whole country? And I actually want to start with Andrew on this.
I'm mostly a single issue voter on this. There's other reasons, but for me, it's mostly the issues of tech censorship and free speech. I think Trump has done more when it comes to calling out the big tech firms and trying to decrease censorship. And I would like for him to do more, but he's done more than past presidents, and I definitely am concerned with the other candidates in terms of what they want to censor.
And are you voting, what about the rest of the ballot? Are you voting Republican generally, or is there a mix?
It's a mix of Republican and leaving blank at this point.
Gotcha. Okay. And what are the other issues aside for the other candidates? What are the issues you're concerned with?
For me, it's mostly constitutional civil liberties, Second Amendment, First Amendment. In terms of Second Amendment, I don't think I'm responsible enough to own guns, but I think people who are responsible enough should be permitted. And I think a lot of past gun control issues should be repealed, including the NFA. But in general, it's mostly free speech.
Okay, gotcha.
Where is what are you scared of with Biden on free speech? Out of curiosity, specifically.
I think he's too friendly with Facebook, Google, the legacy media, and pretty much all of the big firms, Twitter, and they've been growing in censorious behavior, and I'm concerned about 230 being scrapped away with, and then them having the technology to just operate as publishers, especially with Congress not enforcing and a Biden presidency not enforcing.
Next, Anthony, what about you?
And feel free to respond to anything Andrew just said, obviously.
Certainly. Biden for me, Jack, you know, it wasn't my first choice to come to represent the Democratic Party, but he is the representative out there. Probably my number one concern right now is healthcare, and I think that I consider all of you guys to be a little bit younger. People don't realize, I didn't realize that how important it was until I needed it. I think at a certain age, you're young, single, young, up to 40, you know, with no children or something. And if everything going well, you don't realize how important it is. That's a big issue for me. Healthcare, probably the number one right now. And I say that even over the some of the race issues, because let's face it, as a Black guy, I'm used to it. It's new to everybody out there because it's been broadcast, but you know, we all knew it. It's been like this forever. You know, I kind of welcome it coming out, you know, but that doesn't mean we believe anything's going to change on that front. Healthcare was changing, however flawed people think Obamacare was. It was a start. He himself said he could fix it. So for me, healthcare, number one issue, and the reason that I'm voting for Biden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think my, you know, we both, Anthony and I, both are bartenders, and I think for me, I think it's so uncertain right now in terms of getting healthcare that, that I can't even begin to like think about how to do it. I should look into it soon, but like, because I know some people who have taken the time, but a couple of my family, you know, have, you know, just had a catastrophe happen to them, and then they had healthcare. So that's my plan right now. So like next time I have a catastrophe, I'll be in the hospital anyway, so I'll figure it out. But I imagine most other people, it's not the greatest plan.
Unfortunately, that's how a lot of people do it. And, for the people who are worried about what it does to an economy, that is quite a drain to not have health insurance and to have to figure it out that way. It's just
right.
Not economically sound.
Mm-hmm.
And I had some things like that too when I was a young man like you, Jack. But breaking your ankle, skateboarding, just dumb
Less
stuff.
young by the day, my friend.
Yeah, well, I just wouldn't pay those bills, which is bad too. So,
yeah, it's kind of a no-win situation sometimes with healthcare, the way that it's been in the country. So let's hope that whoever is in power next, whoever it may be, can do something for the average man and woman, everybody.
Well, let's hear it, Mike, on why he's voting that way. But then maybe maybe we can go respond to some of our get a few rebuts in.
Yeah, I'd be interested. I'm interested, Mike. What? Not only why are you voting the way you are? I'm very curious about what you think about voting and running as a third-party candidate, and also what you think about healthcare plan for the Libertarian Party.
All right. I just want to start out with saying, I'm the kind of guy I was going to vote for whoever the Libertarian candidate was going to be. If you want to take a look at my mindset, I think probably Barack Obama was the worst president that we've had in my lifetime, but I think Donald Trump's the worst human being to be president in my lifetime, and probably my parents' lifetime in that. I think he's an abhorrent person, but I think Obama may have even done more damage. I kind of look at Biden as one of the worst things Obama did was making him vice president. So I don't want him to be president. I think I'll be happier when Trump loses, more because of who he is as a person than anything else. But as far as running as a third-party candidate, being a third-party candidate, like I said a few minutes ago, in 2018, I ran for state senate, and I just made it a single issue campaign, and I just put out a bunch of signs that says car insurance is too damn high. The state mandated car insurance in the state of Michigan is the most expensive in the country. And before I did that, neither of the two candidates from the big teams were talking about that. And by the election day, they were both talking about it. So you knew no matter who was going to win, somebody was going to cover that, because they don't want this guy who's been trolling them on social media that just says car insurance is too damn high for the last 3 months to get too many of their votes that they need to win. And you saw that just last week. Donald Trump decided to reach out to Rand Paul, who's libertarian-ish, to say, hey, I just wanted to let you know President Trump told me he's scaling back the troop presence in Afghanistan, all you libertarians. He said it specifically to all you libertarians. And he did scale back troop presence. It's still not as low as it was when he took office, but it's much lower than it was now. And if that means he's scared of losing too many battleground votes to libertarians, that he actually did something sort of okay, good. I want to keep affecting policy in that way. If it could be a person in the White House, or it could be a person in the White House who doesn't want to lose votes to somebody like me who's talking about real change. And when I went to school, I remember the professor telling me that America was unique for having two liberal parties, the Republicans and the Democrats. I think right now they're both losing that. I think it's going in the other direction. And
they're both getting more liberal, is what you're saying, Mike.
What's that?
You're saying you think that they're both getting more liberal?
No, they're becoming less. I think the left, the Democrats is abandoning liberalism at a much faster rate. I think if Trump wins, the Republicans will continue to do it too. But I think if Trump loses, you might only have one of the two major parties being somewhat liberal, and I think it's only going to be the Republicans. I think the Democrats are done with it.
And by liberal, do you mean on the left, or do you mean like neoliberal?
I mean, what's left of our American principles that came out of the Enlightenment. And as far as protecting free speech, that words aren't violence and enlightenment views, I see the Democrats, they're done with it.
They're done with enlightenment principles.
Yeah.
What do you think about? I agree. I agree with you about the car insurance being too damn high. But that was a big issue between Whitmer and Abdul Al-Sayed.
Health insurance makes car insurance cheaper.
Right.
Yes.
And our health, we did have legislation addressing it. So now, like for the first time, and I thought Whitmer was probably in car insurance pocket. I thought they probably were not going she wasn't going to do anything about that after hearing the debates between her and Abdul Al-Sayed, but she did. And also the only ideas on healthcare really seem like they're on the Democratic side, whether you like Obamacare or whether you like Obamacare or Medicare for all. Repeal and replace doesn't have a replace. So what do you speak a little bit on healthcare and what you think about it, I guess?
Yeah, I was wondering, like, say, I understand the strategy of running single issue in order to move the conversation for the two major parties. But say you do win, what healthcare plan are you advocating for?
It's a big rewind as far as just the libertarian platform is concerned, because ever since Obama took office and made health care a big issue, we've never said the words health care and meant health care. We've been talking about health insurance this entire time. And if you're stuck in the idea that you need health insurance to pay for your health care, then yeah, of course the system that we had before Obamacare was garbage and needed to be fixed and replaced. And then if you make Obamacare, which is all about health insurance, of course, it's not going to really solve anything either. And now the replacement for that on the Democratic side is just free health insurance. It's not really free health care, it's free health insurance.
True, yeah.
Totally. But what's the alternative?
Erase from your mind that this is something that insurance pays for. Start thinking of insurance as Chris Rock called it, in case shit happens. But there's maintenance. There's a cost to being alive, just like there's a cost to owning a car, but we don't use our car insurance to pay for our oil changes or to get a fill-up.
So you think the greater issue is that we need to lower the cost of healthcare, and
you have to lower the cost of healthcare so that you can buy it without insurance, and you can afford insurance that just covers when you get hit by a bus, when a tumor shows up, something like that. And that insurance will be much more affordable. And then even people who can't afford that will be able to get it through, the goodwill of others, and the maintenance costs of being alive, being a human being with a body that you're in that needs to be taken care of will also be cheaper as well. It's just a prime example of anybody who used to take something like Allegra. I used to get a prescription for Allegra, and my prescription Allegra was $60 a bottle, but then it stopped being a prescription drug. It became an over-the-counter drug. Over-the-counter drugs aren't covered by health insurance. Magically, it's $11 now, $5 if you get the store brand. But it's having something that's covered by insurance that you don't just go shopping for, that makes it expensive in the first place. So everybody's imagining this world where the actual care that you get stays the same price, and you're like, you want me to pay that? Like, no, I want the price for everything to go way down, and then you're going to start to realize you don't need as big of an insurance coverage that you have right now. You don't need the government to get it for you, or if you do, you really don't want it. It's like we have food stamps, but you'd rather go buy your own food.
Mike, I had one follow-up question on for you. Do you think that there should be do you think that the price to keep yourself alive in this instance with healthcare, for instance, should be as high as it is? Or do you think that there should be stuff that's free at point of service, where you show up and like you have a catastrophe or something, you don't they've got to treat you anyway, Like, don't you think that we should work out some sort of system? What's the libertarian system for that?
Yeah, I'm going to go off, platform. Don't want to speak for all libertarians. And so I thought about certain things where, I accept the fact that, if your house catches fire, the fireman's going to come. So there are probably some medical equivalents to that. But yeah,
they have to treat you. They have to treat you at this point. If you go to the emergency room and you don't have anything, like they still have to treat you. But that wasn't always the case. Have you thought in your head, a system, there are certain libertarians that are against the fire department, that obviously you're not. Yeah. But obviously you're not. Did you think that there's a system by which, have you thought about a healthcare system? I want to, what's your healthcare system besides bringing costs down? I agree with bringing costs down.
Costs down through market forces. So you really just take away, and then some of this, the government can't legislate a lot of this. Some of it just has to be the way we as consumers change the way we consume this product. And some of that is, wrapped up in Medicare, Medicaid. There are doctors that if they want to accept Medicare, Medicaid, they have to follow their pricing guidelines. And it's actually doctors who stop accepting Medicare, Medicaid who end up lowering their prices because they no longer are bound to what dictated price is. So it's different options like that. There are some practicing doctors who have already made examples, and with a bit of deregulation, it can get better, it gets easier. And when you're talking about what do I think needs to happen to put everything into the libertarian mindset, everything that I do think about is, do I think this is so important that I need somebody with a gun to come put somebody else in a cage if they don't participate in this arrangement? Because that is the end-all be-all of everything that the government provides or enforces. So yeah, should the government do some things here or there, but it has to be something that's so important that I think a man with a gun should come to your house and put you in a cage if you don't want to participate in it. Because that's what
people's health and people's health. I'm sorry, people's health is not like a basic health care for citizens.
No, we have an example of hundreds of millions of Americans who take care of their own on their own. I think we'd be a better society if we helped the people who couldn't do it on their own. And maybe there's a level where maybe you should get thrown in jail. I don't know. I don't think there's a whole heck of a lot that I want to throw people in jail for not participating in.
Okay. Andrew, a lot of what I think he's talking about is stuff that I think Trump promised, essentially. He said it would be, there'd be healthcare, it'd be much cheaper, it's going to be much better. But then what ended up happening was essentially he just, lost the individual mandate for Obamacare, which was the worst part of Obamacare, yes. But also, isn't this just tiptoeing closer to either what we had before Obamacare, which wasn't that great, and then or like Medicare for all? Like, what's the replace and is repeal and replace?
First of all, I want to say I was nodding my head at everything Mike was saying about pretty much everything he's said so far for the most part on this. I don't know if Joe Jorgensen is the best candidate for the ideology of libertarianism, but in terms of being a libertarian, that's pretty much where I fall ideologically. In terms of that, I will say my stance on Trump and healthcare is he faced obstructionism from both parties. I don't think, honestly, the Republican Party likes him that much either in terms of House and Senate. Other Republicans, in terms of in-party support among the electorate, he has a lot of support. But in terms of, I just think he wasn't able to get a lot done because first half of his term he was a lame duck with his party controlling both chambers of Congress. and he was a lame duck.
What did he want to get done? What did he want to get done? Like this is what I'm saying. Like it's cool. It's cool to say like we're there. Everyone's against us, and like this system is bad. That system is bad. What is the system that we're going to have under Republicans or Libertarians, for that matter, for healthcare to get basic?
I think a lot less regulation of the healthcare industry. I think a lot less paperwork, a lot less rules and regulation, a lot less red tape preventing people. If you want to be able to get an experimental treatment, you should be permitted to, that sort of thing. Free up the market. I think we need less government intervention.
And you don't accept I think you're of the same mind as Mike, where you don't see healthcare or health coverage as a necessary thing for our society or a human right.
I definitely do not think that. It should be a right. I think it should be, just like food. We all need food, but you got to buy food. And I mean, I don't think food stamps is the worst government program, but I definitely am opposed ideologically to it. Just like with healthcare, I think it's a commodity. It's an individual commodity. Your health is a commodity that should be paid for individually, or at least not through government.
Throwing it back to Anthony, I mean, and this kind of gets into the party politics in general, loyalty and efficacy. The Democratic Party does tout itself as the healthcare party, or like the party that you kind of keep voting on in if you want to get through the light at the end of the tunnel, as you see. But before Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, and I know you're a Warren supporter, they didn't prioritize it very much, did they?
Once you started getting insurance, and I do agree with Mike with we're talking about insurance, but not healthcare. But the insurance also it can't mandate, can't make you. But most of the insurance policies from Obamacare, you were required to have your oil changes, which do things like have your yearly checkups, or and your flu shots and things like that to catch things before. I had private insurance when I worked for, which is one of the reasons that I worked for a corporation. So when I went through my cancer junk, paying out of my paycheck for private insurance and all of that, my part of that was over $50,000 still, with supposedly super insurance, super company, over 50 grand. And I'm still paying that. Like it's ridiculous. So did all of that, not with the company anymore. They actually got rid of me because they had the cancer, Like, whoa, to not have to pay their part of the insurance. Got Obamacare, much less, and they paid for everything, the treatment, the radiation and stuff that I had to have after. And it was pretty much free to me. So the healthcare is a commodity. What do you have the government for? And I mean, you need government for just not complete whatever, but what do you have politicians for? Be they Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, whatever. What are you paying those guys for? What do you want to do with your tax money? And you will be taxed whoever. I mean, it's ridiculous for people to think that society would work without the services that we have, and that people would be able to pay for those services.
I think let's just do a little recap on that. Our first episode was on about 2016 and what a rotten year it was, all these celebrities dying. And then we had, really iconic people like Prince and David Bowie. And then we had two of the most unpopular people in the country running against each other to be our leaders. So it was almost like it was an insult to injury a little bit. And I voted a third party, and I'm not sure whether I stand by that now. I say I regret it, but I always regret every vote I make because I always think that there's some bullshit consequence to all of them.
I stayed home in 2016 for the record.
You stayed home in 2016?
Yeah, I stayed home.
So this love affair with Donald Trump has been growing since then.
It's only been about a year, 2 years since I started supporting Trump.
Okay. So in the last 2 years.
I stayed home in 2018 too. This will be the first election I'm voting for since 2008. Voting in since 2008.
Did you think about voting third party?
I would consider voting third party. There has not been a third party candidate that I've been eligible to vote for that I found worth voting for.
What did you do in 2016, Anthony?
Well, I voted for Hillary, and I didn't like her, and I'm going to tell you that I'm kind of ashamed of that now. I don't think that I gave her. I think I judged her much more harshly than I would have a male candidate. I would have liked someone. Not that I wouldn't have preferred someone else, but I judged her pretty harshly. And I think a lot of people did because she was a woman, because of her husband, a whole bunch of things. I think that if a lot of men especially looked, that they were being a little misogynistic.
Trump had never held office before, and so no one knew what to expect from him. So there were people out there thinking he's a deal maker. He'll be making deals left and right with whoever he can, Democrat, Republican, whoever, or thinking it could be the most chaotic thing ever. But there was nothing to go on. There was no experience to go on. And Hillary Clinton had a very long record to look at. So comparing hypotheticals against a solid record was a big question mark. So if someone was torn between the two, you could see how they could make the decision. But then now, compared to now, it's
and I think Anthony is right in this sense that, like, on top of her having a very long record, and the thing that really turned the tide for me was that she wasn't making allowances for her being a bad candidate, because she was, and and I think she made a lot of bad moves. She was very underhanded in the primary, and she was very underhanded in the primary against Barack Obama, the 3 a.m. call. If she had made allowances for that and she had said, I know I'm not perfect, but I'm better than Trump, like the Biden strategy is today, I probably would have voted for her. But she had this, I will agree with Anthony that she had this very long 30-year career that basically where people made their entire careers off of trashing her and her husband. And so she was hated in a very manufactured way, no doubt about it. Me, right. I had the opposite problem with Hillary in that I liked her personally. I think if I were going to have I know that Donald Trump doesn't drink, but if I was going to have a drink between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, I can't think of a person that I'd rather, that I'd least want to drink with versus someone I'd most want to. Like, she knows all the Jeffrey Epstein shit. She knows, she's sometimes, people say she's personally very thorough and hilarious and, has been, first lady and, Secretary of State and, knows where all the bodies are buried and has this weird, witches laugh. I think she's great personally. I just thought she was a bad campaigner and she had bad policy. When it was her and John Edwards and Barack Obama against each other in the primary, I was praying every day for fucking Barack Obama because he won. But both her and Edwards were off, the worst possible excesses of the Democratic Party at that time, and even more so in 2016. And I didn't believe a word she said. I think if she had won today, we might very well have a proxy war in Syria against Russia. So that was my calculus at the time. And even though I still hate Donald Trump to this day, and I hated him at the time too, I thought at the time all of this anti-war rhetoric might he might be called to term for it, and it might affect something in a way that like we get out of Syria and like Hillary Clinton's going to get us in a bigger war in Syria. And
All right.
I don't know that necessarily would have happened in retrospect, but like I could see a worst case scenario with Hillary, and I could see a worst case scenario with Trump, and the Trump one has happened. But
yeah, I couldn't see anything with Trump, and we are making the same mistake. Still, some of the things you said, you're judging her because she's a woman. Like, says, well, if she'd have made these mistakes, if she were a man, you'd let that go. You're saying her long political career. It wasn't her long political career. It was her husband's long political career.
Yeah, he's the male equivalent.
He served 1 Senate term and 4 years as Secretary of State. That's not that big of a political career. So she,
she was a senator for a long time too.
Now, 6 years. Did she do 1 term? Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, but during that time, she introduced flag burning legislation. She like voted for the Iraq War. She voted for Homeland Security. She was not only people call her a neoliberal. She was a neocon.
She was active. So what can you say in politics? So you got to throw it back to us, Jack. You're preaching, and we've got 2 more panelists. All right. Okay. No, not just me. I'm just saying Andrew and Mike, I'm sure they have something to say.
Mike, I imagine you're a Gary Johnson voter in 2016. What was your assessment?
I did have a drink with the candidate I voted for. Yeah. Voted for Gary Johnson, of course. I did used to live in New Mexico shortly too. You can say how long of an actual political career Hillary Clinton had, but her career as being in the spotlight and making political opinions has been very, very long, even if she wasn't in any kind of elected or appointed office. And I felt the same way you did. And in 2016, I was happier that Hillary lost than I would have been if Trump lost, and I would be happy for either of them to lose. I'm feeling the opposite way this time around, which is I'll be happier for Trump to lose, even though I think Joe Biden is one of the most disgusting people ever as well. And I think he has a long track record that's probably worse than Hillary's. I just, like we all just said, we didn't know about Trump. And I don't think we have played out any kind of worst case scenario with Trump. There isn't a wall. I knew in 2016, there's never going to be a wall. There isn't one now. He hasn't done half the shit he talks about. If anybody should be mad at him, it's actually Republicans. If a Democrat did a lot of what Donald Trump has done, they'd be rip shit, but it's their guy, so they don't care.
Pitts, I think that leads us to the next topic pretty good. And I'm sorry, Mike, I caught you off there.
I just did want to hear from, in case Andrew had anything to say about how we got here. But I guess considering it was a while since you voted, Andrew, I guess, what were you expecting in 2016? What were you expecting? Were you hoping for anything, or were you kind of just tuning it out?
I was of the mindset that Donald Trump, even though I didn't like him then, was the lesser evil, because I'd rather Donald Trump, what I perceive Donald Trump's ineptitude over Hillary Clinton's ability to get stuff done that I didn't want to get done. I'd rather have an inept Donald Trump than a successful Hillary having the ability to do what I think she would have done.
Okay. Well, that will lead us into the next topic, and let's stick with you, Andrew. In Trump's inaugural speech, he described American carnage. He said he was going to usher in a new era of politics. What does the term American carnage mean to you? And has he succeeded in eradicating it and ushering a new era of politics? The key thing that jumps out to me about when he describes American carnage also is crime in the streets. That was happening up until 2016 that he said he would eradicate. That's part of the American carnage. So crime in the streets and immigration policy, how do you think he's done on that?
Honestly, immigration policy was one of my less significant issues. I think if we're going to have a border, it should be enforced, but it's not top on my priority list. In terms of crime, I think overall crime has been trending down before Trump was president. And outside of all of the things happening this year, it was still trending downward. It's not really, Trump's not really a factor, or I consider him mostly a non-factor in terms of the issue of crime.
Anthony, do you think Trump could have done a better job if he had surrounded himself with better people, even if they're conservative, but Republicans, but better people? And do you think that the revolving door policy, like not unspoken policy, do you think the turnover rate has had an effect on their efficacy?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, first rule, you're in charge, you don't know something, you get somebody who does know it. Surround yourself with good people. I think he has a problem with anybody who may be smarter than him. You've seen it with Dr. Fauci, and who knows more. He fears people who know more than him. I think he would not have a problem getting reelected. He was popular for whatever wrong reasons. He wouldn't have had to even do that if he just kept good people around him. He had some good people. He got rid of them. They didn't agree with. If he wanted to coast to a second term, he could have listened to his good advisors. I mean, I don't mean like Steve Bannon or any of those dingalings, could have got some regular Washington guys to go him along. He still would have gotten all of the judicial appointees, which is the most important thing he's done, and which is the only reason people like, the Kentucky guy, Senator
Mitch
McConnell, yeah, that they're for him. That is the reason that McConnell, he's the smartest guy in the room right now, and stay with them. So he would have gotten that. He'd have had the Senate happy with him, the reps happy with him. He's already a populist. They'd have let him do his, yelling and whatever, and he would have gotten something done. He wouldn't have the problem that he had now if he'd have listened to good people that he had in place instead of being afraid of them. So,
do you think that do you think his employment decisions were better on The Apprentice?
I never saw The Apprentice. Never.
Oh, really?
I didn't either, but I know there was one in common to both, which was Omarosa, who did not stick around for very long.
Who said he was a dingaling? You could overcome.
Wasn't Penn Jillette pointed to something? Anyway.
Remember, we thought that W was the worst president in the world.
Yeah.
Before he came along. And W he appointed good people. It's like, I don't know all I know is baseball.
You and I
just
will
want to be a baseball commissioner. I appoint some good people. They do everything, He could have cruised through. So he's a dumbass.
All right.
I think that the thing that you're accusing me of doing with Hillary, you're because she's a woman, you're giving too much credit to George W. Bush because he's a man. They're both neocons to me.
I do, and I'm going to tell you that I'm probably I'm much more softer on W than whatever. I don't know why. I liked his dad. That's one of the
dude. He had those little nicknames, like he was charming.
Yeah, he was a dingaling too, but
I think recency bias may apply there. No offense.
His grandpa was a Nazi. I know that. Preston Bush.
Sorry, whose white grandfather back then wasn't? Come on.
Yeah, true. We can drink to that.
Yeah. So speaking of firing people, I'm gonna throw this to Mike. Was Trump within his rights to fire James Comey for investigating Russian interference in the election? Was it obstruction of justice when he fired James Comey, or something else? The third option.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there was anything specifically maybe illegal about it in a sense, just giving the way the roles are defined, but it was the wrong thing to do, and it made the ability of the FBI to do its job, whatever that may be, a lot harder. And Trump did it specifically because he was the subject.
Right.
It's not like he ruined some other investigation that had nothing to do with him. He specifically ruined an investigation of himself.
Right.
And I think
when the president does it, it's not illegal. That's the worst Nixon I've ever heard or done.
I thought Nixon's ghost bombed the Zoom call.
I know. I need John Davidson in here. But he's made that art like that was like a gaffe from Nixon. But like I will say this is the thing that I like about Trump is that he says the quiet parts out loud. He says the stuff you're not like he's not really even dog whistling anything. He's just like, how do you calling his dog basically like, so it is kind of he's actually made the arguments his lawyers have that because, he's a sitting president, he can't like do crimes. At least that's my understanding of it. I don't know how much you followed it, Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew, I'm curious your take on this.
On Comey or the Nixon quote? On
Comey. But also, we wrapped up into this. When Trump fired Comey, was it obstruction of justice? Was it legitimate? Was it within his rights? And all that being asked, when the president does something, does that make it legal? Yeah. Is the president allowed to break the law?
Believing in rule of law, hell no. If the president breaks a law, there should be consequences. There are issues with them being enforced in regards to the presidency. But I absolutely think just because you're in a high place doesn't mean laws shouldn't be enforced to your benefit or to your detriment.
And so how does that influence your opinion on him firing James Comey?
I think in terms of Comey, I think the right thing to do would have just let Comey continue the investigation. I think he made a mistake. I'm not sure if that amounts to obstruction of justice, but definitely the wrong move there, at least politically, at least in terms of the public's perception.
You're not sure about legally. We should probably talk about Charlottesville as long as we're talking about
the same thing.
Yeah,
especially because your single issue is freedom of speech. So at Charlottesville, we had good people on both sides. So there's according to the president. So while I will guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, I will guess that you will defend everyone in Charlottesville everyone's right to say their piece in the Charlottesville protests. But do you think that that President Trump had a responsibility to denounce the Nazis and far right, racist, so on, members of the Charlottesville protests?
There's a little bit of nuance to that in terms of, I think, I think you should denounce. I think in terms of responsibility, I don't think anybody has a responsibility to say or not say anything from a free speech standpoint. I think he definitely flubbed what he should have said. He should have said violence is bad, but it's okay. He forgot to mention it.
Well, considering that a lot of people tend to listen to what Trump says, don't you think it's pretty important that he tells those people exactly that violence is bad and maybe that hate and racism are bad?
I think you should already, that's stuff that should already know living in a free society. However,
David Duke doesn't.
When he said, I'm sorry?
David Duke doesn't though, or a Richard Spencer. There are these people that are specifically evoking Trump, using Trump as a
not nowadays. Not nowadays. Not nowadays. Richard Spencer endorsed Biden.
Yeah, but he's trolling. He's trolling. I mean, like I think Richard Spencer is always.
I don't think he's trolling. I think he's just
at the time we're talking about Charlottesville. There was a march going on where there were people with tiki torches saying Jews will not replace us, and they were all pretty pro-Trump. David Duke.
I think that still falls under their First Amendment free speech right. I'm Jewish myself. I don't think people should say those things, but I absolutely.
That's relevant to the topic. We're talking about Trump saying.
I thought you were talking about the physical violence. I thought you were talking about the physical violence that happened after the fact.
Well, yeah, one guy did run over someone, but what we're talking specifically is Trump's inability to, emphatically denounce white supremacists, even in even today, even in the last few debates, and we'll talk about the debates in a bit. He can't say I denounce white supremacists without saying he denounces Antifa and Black Lives Matter in the same breath. He's always somewhat nudge, wink, winking at these, racist people. I mean, whether he's doing it intentionally or not, it's like the idea that he can't make a clear message suggests that is doing it intentionally, doesn't it?
I don't agree. I don't think he. I think he's denounced the Proud Boys. He reluctantly denounced the Proud Boys, but the Proud Boys aren't even a white supremacist group. He has denounced. He's denounced all these people, so I don't understand why he has to keep doing it.
Well, just maybe without making a snarky comment after doing it each time.
So I'm going to move on to promises kept, and I want to ask Mike about this. Proponents of Trump will say that he's done well on North Korea, Syria, ISIS, Israeli-Arab relations, losing the Affordable Care Act mandate, a decent economy, and lower Black unemployment during his presidency. Mike, what do you think about those accomplishments? How many of them were inherited? Are they worthy of note? Are they bullshit?
I think a lot of them are bullshit. Inherited is a word to use. I think some things were already trending that way. But whatever his biggest promises, those were little promises. His biggest promises was pay back the deficit. Pay back the debt. I mean, he increased it more than any president we ever had. It's the exact opposite of what he promised. To build a wall, there isn't one. Lock her up, she hasn't been. And just go to what he actually does do as well. Again, if a Democrat raised the tobacco age to 21, Republicans would be rip shit. If a Democrat said into the microphone, take the guns first, do due process second, Republicans would be rip shit. If a Democrat banned bump stocks and silencer, Republicans would be rip shit. If a Democrat raised all these tariffs, Republicans would be rip shit. He isn't what he pretends to be. He's a guy who talks shit. That's what he does. He owns the libs. And so he is a lifelong Democrat who governs like a lifelong Democrat. The only you never hear Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders critique his trade policy because it's their trade policy. And if they were in there doing it, if they were in there putting up these trade wars, doing these bailouts, raising these tariffs, they would be what they promised to be. It's what Trump is actually doing now. The difference is he's got an R next to his name, so Republicans suddenly don't care. They don't care what he actually does or doesn't do because he doesn't do anything. They care that he is this mascot of what they want a president to be. He's a symbol, and it's a terrible one. But I can see if you're a person who wants to own the libs and talk shit and be a big swinging dick, then yeah, you need to keep voting for Donald Trump because he's going to keep on doing that stuff on Twitter. But if you actually care about the policies of politicians, he's not delivering on anything substantial that he promised, not even close. He's done the opposite on most of it.
I think we should let Andrew respond to that. But I will say another nice thing about Trump is he's the funniest president, most intentionally and unintentionally funniest president we've ever had. George W. Bush was the most unintentionally funny. Barack Obama might be the most intentionally funny, and Trump put it together. First one to put it together.
But let's see. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to agree to disagree on that. Well, maybe if you.
Oh, you can't. How do you disagree on that?
The only one that meets both of those things, but indeed, like, I mean,
he's Andy Kaufman.
But he doesn't. His unintentional part is not as good as W's, and his intentional part is not as good as Obama's. He's just the only one.
I agree. I agree.
All right.
Sacrifice a little bit of each.
Okay, but let's hear what Andrew's thoughts on Trump's accomplishments.
I will say first, I like having a wrestling heel. As a guy who likes wrestling when wrestling didn't suck, I like having a old school wrestling heel as president. In terms of the accomplishments, I will say part of it is actually inherited from Obama in terms of the energy boom we had before COVID. I will say lowering regulations and lowering taxes. I know my taxes. I in 2018 and 2019, I saved thousands of dollars. I mean, overall, Trump's a mediocre president, but he's, from how I look at it, he's better than a lot of what we've had in my lifetime, at least.
Do you think that he should have been able to appoint a Supreme Court justice 8 days before the election day? Considering that in 2016, Scalia died in February, they appointed, they nominated Garland in March 2016, and even that was too early for the Republican Party.
Two things. One, I'm pretty sure you got the days wrong. I think the SCOTUS was confirmed 8 days before the election, was nominated a few weeks before.
Okay, fair enough.
There's a big difference. You have in 2016, you have a Democratic president, a Republican-held Senate.
The fact that there's a Republican-held Senate means that Republican senators are representing the American people. But if you think about how 30 Republican senators represent the same amount of people as 2 California senators, I mean, and also that none of that came up in 2016. It wasn't that they had who was in control of the Senate. It was that this is an election year. That was the argument. It's an election year.
In that case, I think Republicans are wrong in 2016 and right in 2020.
Okay. All right. So
do you think honor enters into something like this? Like Trump also ran to he said he'd to some extent he'd run, making deals, reaching across the aisle and appealing to more liberal people in the country as well. This could have been his opportunity. He could have nominated Merrick Garland, as soon as the thing opened up and just as a respect thing, but he didn't.
That would have been funny for sure. If he had, that would have been an interesting move for sure.
And to be fair, no one would have done that. If it were the other way around, the Democrats wouldn't have done it either.
No. But
I agree, but I don't know.
He would have gotten a second term.
What's that?
I think that
he would be cruising to a second term.
He'd be cruising to a second term if he did that. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And he's already filled 2 seats, and he's always already going to have a majority in any case. Now he's going to have a 3-6 majority, and I just think it plays against his narrative that he's not a Republican, he's not a party tool. I think every time he's had the opportunity to do what the Republican Party's bidding, he's done it.
Yeah, that's an interesting take, and I agree with Anthony. I think that would have definitely helped his polling for sure. if he had actually done that, but I don't think anyone would have thought to do that. I definitely hadn't thought of that as would have been an interesting move for sure. Definitely would have changed things.
We can only dream. So I think that's the main. We can only dream about Trump cruising to a second term with a landslide victory, because I think whether or not he wins this, I don't think he's going to win the popular.
And whether it's a dream or a nightmare is up to you.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree that he loses the popular.
All the Republican presidents in the past 30 years have lost the popular. Since Reagan, I think, have lost the popular. So,
yeah,
I believe HW got the popular, but I might be wrong.
I think W got popular in 2004, if I'm not mistaken. I think he actually won the popular vote against Kerry. I have to look
I think
that
you're
up.
right. Yeah. But it's definitely happened that there's been a divide between the popular and the electoral more in modern history than, more in the last 20 years than I think ever before.
I did look up 2004 recently out of curiosity, and Bush did. I looked it up again just now. Bush did win popular vote, but by such a narrow margin, 3 million, which is crazy thinking about. I mean, I was young. I was very young, so I wasn't paying attention, but that's a very narrow margin.
We're going to talk about the Democratic primaries next, and I'm going to do the same thing we did with the Trump first year, because there's too many. But there's like 20 people. So I'm just going to say a name and get quick takes, basically. And I'm going to start on Warren. And Anthony, I know you're a Warren supporter in the general, and I think we should fight about
it. We should fight about it. You know, I think she had the most real world experience. We were talking earlier about supposedly how long Hillary Clinton had been in. She had actual long-term experience, and she wanted to push what was going on further left, which is all right with me. Yeah. So that is why I was for she. So with all of her experience, she saw like, hey, we still need to push this thing further. We still need to do.
Buddy, get a little more in frame again. You're cutting off. I can only see I can't see your eyebrows.
I'm sorry. My production assistant has left me, so Lillian's in the room. I don't know what's going on.
You just fixed it. I don't know who I'm talking to if I don't see your dreads. So yeah, I think that she could she was definitely to the left, helped move the party to the left, definitely had great debate performances, definitely had great real world experience. All of the little the things in that I wanted out of Hillary Clinton, only she had actually had them, and and I think she very promptly squandered every one of them. I think with the Pocahontas thing, I'm just saying she could have left that alone. She didn't.
And if she weren't a woman, would you be all right with her? I can't leave. I got to fight. We're talking about Trump is president, so he can't leave anything alone. He picks it up and he tweets. So if she weren't a woman, and she's like, well, you know what? I can't leave that. It's like talking about my mother. I got to go after you. I got to slap you.
I was, as you know, I was for Bernie Sanders in the general, or in the primary. So I know you think he's too old, but I listen to everything he says. So I know that no matter, what she did, she could never have won the presidency because she's a woman.
Yes. So, all right, there you go. No matter what she did, she couldn't win because she was a woman.
But you remember that controversy where supposedly Bernie Sanders told Elizabeth Warren in private, no, you can't win because you're a woman. That sounds so much like Bernie Sanders.
I believe her. I believe he said it. And I believe
you know what? It's irrelevant. Maybe you said it. Why make that a public issue when you're the only two candidates that are fighting for Medicare for all? You're the only left coalition that you even have anything, and she decides to pick a fight with him.
Because you're fighting for it, first of all. So you're saying that she should have dipped. She should have said, all right, okay, I'm going to let you go ahead and have it.
I think there was a point. Yeah, but dude, why? I'm saying, like, attack the moderates. Why not just attack the moderates until you see which ones is better, is more ahead, and then like one drops out, endorses the other. They got to be strategic. And Bernie was not as strategic as he should have been either. But sure. I'm just saying, like, I think Warren was just a really bad politician the whole time, considering how much she had, to bring to the table,
If the Democrats were good, they wouldn't have to worry about that. They would have gotten somebody through in 2016. They would have gotten Hillary Clinton, wouldn't have been the Sanders fight. After they lost that, if they were good, they would have been putting a candidate or pushing someone up front right after that, instead of waiting for all of it, for whatever the field was, the party field, 20 people or something. They would have been pushing some people right after they lost 2016. So the Democratic Party has not been good at getting things. They haven't. They just have not been good at getting things done.
Yeah, but Warren is a big part of that, and we would probably be
sure.
We would probably have as part of our if we kept on fighting, like, we probably could have had Medicare for all as part of the party platform. And as a result of her bad political moves, and Bernie Sanders too, but Bernie also moved the party to the left more than any other candidate in modern history.
But it was a fight. They should have been doing it in 2016. By the time we came to 2019, we should have already had one or two people that we were firmly behind. They were ready to go. It would have cost a lot less money to do. We'd have been fighting a long time ago. We wouldn't have wasted energy. We would have exposed so much of Trump's things long ago. They should have been doing that. And so if, let's hope it doesn't happen, they lose this election, do we have somebody that we're pushing forward? It won't be Kamala Harris because she's a woman.
Well, and that leads me to the next thing. Who was the most insufferable candidate to you? One name.
The one name.
If you can pronounce it, I have my answer.
I just have petty stuff for people after that, because
come on, one name.
One name.
Who was the worst one?
Maybe Cory Booker. I don't know.
Oh, Cory Booker. I forgot about Cory Booker. No, the most
I'm with you on that, Anthony, too.
Thank you.
I don't like Cory Booker, but the most annoying person has to stay in the fight longer than Cory Booker did. And at least he had a cute girlfriend show up to Rosario.
God.
Yeah. So Rosario Dawson was good eye candy, at least for that. Pete Buttigieg was the answer we were looking for. Most insufferable candidate. I didn't like him one bit. I thought he would have been a disaster in the general, not because he's gay, just because he's annoying.
You've always been a homophobe, okay?
I know, seriously.
For 8 years.
Well, the people that hated him the most, it seems like, were my gay friends. So I'm representing that perspective right now.
He was a bad representative, yeah.
I want to go to Mike and Andrew for a minute. Did either of you guys like Andrew Yang? He had some conservative crossover appeal.
Yeah, Andrew Yang. Every time he said, "I'm the only candidate that appeals to Republicans, Democrats, and Libertarians," I said, "No, you do not." And every time he advertised that we need an Asian guy who's good at math to be president, I said, "Great, do you know any?" Because I don't think he had it. But going back to what
is that an indictment of the universal basic income?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and his
So you think
misunderstanding of libertarian support for it, but also its feasibility under the way in which he wanted to implement it. But I did want to point out, since misogyny keeps coming up, but I haven't brought it up, that unlike all you misogynistic pussy grabbers, I am voting for a woman this year.
Well, you must admit that, like, you know, we have you must admit we have about enough money at any given point for, you know, to give to wars and big banks and whatever. I mean, $1,000 a month compared to that doesn't seem like too insane.
No, it's not too insane, and especially if you cut those things to do it. That was never his plan.
Well, I think it was his plan for some of it. He was, but he maybe wanted to cannibalize
a VAT tax on top of all the existing taxes to pay for it.
Right. But he also cannibalized welfare a little bit, and that was criticism he had from the left.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, Andrew, did you like Yang or Gabbard? I should bring Tulsi Gabbard into this too, because she's the other one who enjoyed some success across the political spectrum, but in very else other ways.
I definitely, Mike pretty much covered what I think about Yang, especially the UBI. I think it would be a good, as was already mentioned, a good solution to the welfare state. But since it wasn't presented as such, just more waste of our money and more of a tilt towards soft socialism. In terms of Gabbard, I think she would have been the best opponent for Donald Trump. But in terms of, I'm not a fan, but it would have been a choice for me if Gabbard was running against Donald Trump in the general.
Well, you should ask who the best candidate against Donald Trump should be to everybody's dad, because they were all saying Klobuchar. I do not understand why.
I think Gillibrand or Gabbard.
Gillibrand is interesting. She was in for some of her ads. She said she was basically like making her fundraising events have some whiskey with Gillibrand, which appealed to me. Partially as a bartender, but also partially really wanting to get a presidential candidate drunk. And whiskey works the quickest on that.
And I also would disagree with you. I think Buttigieg would have been a good opponent for Trump too.
Okay. Mike, did you have any thoughts on Sanders in general? Or I imagine you think the same thing as you thought about Yang?
Well, Andrew said exactly what I've said about Sanders this entire time, is he would have won in 2016, but he wouldn't have been able to win in 2020. I think the Democrats, as far as running against Trump, did the best they could do with Biden. I think he's going to win. I think Klobuchar could have won too. My favorite was Tulsi.
Sanders also sold out a lot. In terms of some of his positions between not during 2016, but since 2016.
Is it cold?
And
who was your respect? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were.
And also the fact that he endorsed. I know he had to, but the fact that he endorsed Hillary really rubbed me the wrong way in 2016. And I'm sure it rubbed a lot of people that would have voted for Sanders in 2020 that wouldn't have, because that happened.
Interesting. Which candidate in the primary were your least favorites?
Well, like I had agreed with Corey, with Anthony, Cory Booker. Didn't like. I also found Harris to be quite insufferable during the campaign too. She had one good performance, then dropped like a rock after that because she couldn't hang. And she's just, in general, she's the term Karen usually applies to white blonde women, but I think the meme applies to her. She's just a Karen of a different color.
In what way?
She's the PTA board mom that just wags her finger and tells you you're misbehaving. That's exactly how she comes off.
Is it possible that, like Anthony was talking about earlier, like if she were a man and said all the exact same things, how would you feel about her then? Like a man,
I would absolutely consider her. I would absolutely consider a man the same way I consider her behaving the same way.
But would you call him a Karen?
Yeah, would you call?
No, I wouldn't call him a Karen. I'd call him some other name that's pertinent for a guy that's a Karen.
What is? But there is no term for a guy that's a Karen, really. Is there? A Chad?
Well, I don't think. Chad doesn't work either. But I mean, there's also the factor that I don't think a lot of guys act that way. Just
Anthony.
Yes.
Where have you been? You just missed Andrew calling Kamala Harris Karen of a different color.
Well, I had to put the girls to bed and pee. So,
what did you think of
Kamala Harris? A Karen?
Yeah, a Karen of a different color.
All right, I'm going to tell you why that's not possible. Because she went to an HBCU, and if there's anybody who's down to what's going, what kind of kicks in the teeth that black men have to get, it would be somebody from Howard University she's from, and someone from her sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha. Although my family's Delta, historically black sorority, there's no way she's a Karen. She may be a bougie black. People call me a bougie black. That's all right with whatever. But Karen, no way.
Bourgeoisie black.
Bougie. You got to say it right, Jack. Bougie.
No. I'm using the communist way to say it. Bourgeoisie black.
Say it the street way.
Do you think that she's been the victim in the primary or now of misogyny or racism, like you in the same way you thought Elizabeth Warren or Hillary Clinton was?
Yeah, of course. I mean that goes without saying. I don't think she's the best.
All right, so because we're going to talk about him as a selection and for Biden and Biden-Harris in general in a second. Pitts, you want to do clout chasing?
Let's do it, Jack. Let's go after him. Let's get him.
We're going to take a little mid-discussion break to remind you, everyone that we're now on YouTube. And in the tradition of the first-time YouTube creators, we decided to throw our limited weight around by clout chasing, the same way that every new YouTuber does it. So take the time to like and subscribe and enjoy our new segment, Clout Chaser. If I can figure out how to...
You were thinking I died, bitch, surprise, I still got them double thick thighs. French fries, I get down and gobble gobble up with my booty up. She be going wobble wobble up. Here's a big duck, slide slide in the peanut butter. Don't sucker, who actually regrets me. My mother, I troll betas with my Pornhub. Betrayer, you nothing but a hater. Cloud chaser, what's my favorite Twitch star?
Yeah. All right, so my first clout chase is on Tim Dillon, and you guys haven't heard of him maybe, but he appeared on, that's the point, he appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience with Alex Jones with brown coloring in his hair, and that is both a surreal midlife crisis and a little on the nose for a podcaster most of us have never heard of. So that's my first clout chase. What do you got, Pitts?
All right. I'm going after someone, I don't know if you've heard of her. Her name's AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You think just because you got big ideas and you care about equality and helping people and you're 31 years old, you think that you're the only person? I've thought about that stuff too. Just because you're the youngest woman to be elected to Congress and the youngest serving Congress member, I could have done that if I... Yeah, I'm coming at you. You burnt, AOC, okay? Hashtag AEP, not AOC.
Oh, Okay, Pitts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So mine is I still haven't ruled out the Ben Shapiro self-owning WAP controversy, much like certain celebrity cancellations, wasn't intentionally done for clicks. And either way, his voice mixed into a song is better than the original, in my opinion. But until he acknowledges what exactly happened with his wife, we ought to keep bringing it up, because there's no unfunny way for that to play out. Hashtag dry ass pussy.
All right, pretty good, Jack. Okay, now I'm coming after somebody. I don't know if you know who this is. I'm coming after somebody called Andy Richter. Okay, I'm coming for you. Just because you think you're the only co-host in town that has any game, just because you and Conan have been doing this for 30 years. You've only been on this iteration of Conan for like a year at best. I've been friends with Jack for 8 years. I can do everything Andy Richter does. You burnt. Hashtag late night wars.
Okay, Pitts. I like the hashtags,
Yeah,
but you know, I just the point of clout chasing is that you got to, like, you know, you choose people that are a little more famous than you, so that you can, you know, kind of like cipher off their fame a little bit.
They're more famous than me. These guys are more famous.
Yeah, these people are. It's too much clout to chase. You're never gonna catch that clout.
I think I can chase it. I don't know.
I mean, okay, I'm just saying maybe scale down. But let me give you another one.
Well, I don't know,
maybe a little more famous.
Maybe.
Okay. Now that the staff of the Majority Report is drinking on air more, is it just me, or am I sensing sparks between Jamie and Sam? As communist, anarchist, and leftist broadcasters go, they'd make a cute couple. Hashtag left is best.
Okay, pretty good.
Yeah.
I think Jack.
Now their audience, yeah, you know, maybe, yeah.
Okay, I think I got it. I got one more. I'm coming after somebody. He just like right above us, just like one notch above us. So we're gonna get some of it. Okay.
Also, it's like you're comparing yourself to them and like saying that you're cool too. I mean,
I don't understand what you mean.
That novel. That's all I'm saying. But go on.
I don't get what you mean.
Just give me one more. Let's go.
I got strong. One more. It's going to be really good. I think we're going to get some of this out. And Andrew is with me on this. Okay, this guy's named Patrick Stewart. Okay, making bald head part of his identity. Like, me and Andrew are bald too. Okay, I lost my hair when I was 20. Just because I'm not on TV doesn't mean I'm not like a better bald guy than Patrick Stewart. Okay, come at me, Patrick Stewart. Come at me right now. I'm just right next to the UK. Come get me. Okay, hashtag to baldly go. I got it.
To boldly go. Hell yeah. Great guy. Great hashtag. Yeah, we'll talk about the rest later, but good job, buddy. You are a good bald guy. And that was clout chasing.
You were thinking I died. Bitch, surprise. I still got them double thick thighs. French fries. I get down and gobble, gobble up. With my booty up. She be going wobble, wobble up. Here's a big duck. Slide, slide in the peanut butter. Don't sucker. Who actually regrets me? My mother. I troll betas with my Pornhub. Betrayer. You nothing but a hater. Clout chaser. No, that's my favorite Twitch thought.
So I think we're going. What is the next subtopic? I think we're
COVID.
In COVID. All right, we finally made it. We're to COVID. So we're gonna do this chronologically. So it was in February, right? That that Bob Woodward interviewed Donald Trump. Donald Trump said that Xi Jinping just told him that the virus was airborne and that he doesn't want to spread a panic, so he's not going to like say anything about it. Then he travel bans on China in February. That was then his next move, right? There was a WHO and CDC testing debacle. They were testing other coronaviruses and each time, and it was complicating everything. New York and Detroit have insane numbers, highest in the country. There were some success stories around the world. South Korea did pretty good. New Zealand did pretty good. All of them had like really good testing and tracing and travel bans and what else do they have in common? Oh yeah, messaging. They had really good messaging. Meanwhile, we got Trump not saying it's a hoax, but using the word hoax, and then also saying like it's fine, everything's fine. We've got it.
Away like a miracle.
It'll go away eventually. Don't worry about it. We've got we've got lockdowns around the country, massive unemployment obviously because everybody's got to shut down, and the economy goes to the toilet for working people, but then they give a bunch of money to banks and the banks prop up. So and then we've got the CARES Act, the HEROES Act that didn't pass, legislative and executive stallings. So that brings us up to date. So what would you say? I guess I'll start with Andrew. What would you say? Actually, I want to start with Mike, because you said that after the election, you think it's going to kind of get under control. So do you think that there's like some politics being played over here? Or do you accept the science?
You know what science? Everybody who says follow the science has ignored a few scientists. So I think it is what it is.
Dr. Fauci. Let's just say Dr. Fauci, because he's the head one.
And Trump also says that it is what it is.
I think there's...
Yeah, but some libertarians don't. I mean, like they're anti-maskers and stuff, so it's worth asking him.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the Barrington Declaration right now. That's Dr. Martin Kulldorff, professor of medicine at Harvard University, biostatistician and epidemiologist.
What does Kulldorff say?
Yes, Dr. Sunita Gupta, professor at Oxford University and epidemiologist with expertise in immunology, vaccine development, and mathematical modeling. And Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, professor at Stanford University, physician and epidemiologist. Dr. Fauci is a virologist.
No, what did they say? What do they say though, Mike?
That shutdowns aren't the answer.
Okay.
And I don't believe that either. And yes, it's a virus, and yes, it's killing people, and yes, it has to be dealt with, but I don't know when we've ever dealt with it in such a way. Or when, like you started the show with, where is the government testing? Where is the government testing? Where was the government testing for any other virus that's ever occurred? Like, why is that a sudden expectation of government?
To be fair,
not as many people are dying.
I don't believe it's unprecedented.
In modern history, it is. It just, I mean, how is it?
The Hong Kong flu killed about an equal amount of the population.
The which flu?
Hong Kong.
The Hong
Kong flu. Well, I don't know if I've heard of that one.
Yeah.
Hong Kong flu. I don't know it.
Woodstock happened the same year, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. But we do know that the flu killed 80,000 people just a few years ago. And where was all the goddamn government testing then, you know? If you're going to draw a distinction, like there's a magic line at 100,000 that 80,000 doesn't touch or something like that, I mean, a virus is a fact of life. It is something that happens. I don't think we're going to see, in the end, if you chalk up the number of people who died in 2020, it's not going to look much different than 2015, 16, 17, 18, or 19. I don't think you'd be able to pick them out if they weren't labeled.
Well, my whole point with with talking about the testing was that, this was a mysterious thing. We knew it was airborne. We knew it spread like crazy and was lethal, killed people. And it's killing more people here than anywhere. My whole point with testing is, as long as we're shutting down, as long as we're being careful, wearing masks, doing all of these things on our part, the only way that we can actually effectively dig our way out is by providing the testing on the government's part. And instead, they're giving us these trash 7 days for results tests, which do no one any good. We need asymptomatic people to like take it on the regular and then like quarantine themselves if they have. What's that?
They are trash tests as well. So what do we know about the numbers?
Well, no, I'm saying like I'm sure we're getting positive results from the 7-day test, but in that 7 days, are they quarantining? Probably not. They're asymptomatic. It's just pointless. Whether you accept that it's a problem that we have to worry about or not, if we're going to address things a certain way, and try to work it out a certain way, this is what we came up with, and we're not even going out according to our own plan.
We found out in late April from Italy that it was already hit much harder, that 99% of all the people that died in that country from the COVID-19 were people who already had hypertension, diabetes, or both. So we found that out in April. This isn't hindsight anymore. That was front and center. Why didn't we start making our measures let's take that population and protect them? Why did we shut down an entire economy?
Well, I can tell you that
self-imposed depression.
I can tell you that maybe some of those people would not have died if the hospitals hadn't been overloaded with COVID cases, if it hadn't spread as much. Because what happened in Italy was that doctors had to make a decision of who to treat. And so there were people that had pre-existing conditions that were old, that Italian doctors had to say, we have to let this person die so that we can divert our resources to someone who might be able to be treated and recover from this. So if the hospitals, if they didn't have to make those choices.
Who died with coronavirus in their system died with those two pre-existing conditions. It wasn't like, no, Mr. Diabetic, don't come in.
It was like that. It was like that.
I'm talking about cadavers that tested positive for the virus.
You're saying that the virus didn't kill them because they had comorbidities, right?
I'm saying they were at a higher risk, and that we knew that, and obviously there's another 1% that died just from the virus or just from the virus and something else. But if we knew that people could get this virus, but 99% of them who were gonna die were the people with these comorbidities, why don't we start making a plan around protecting those people?
Well, I don't know how to do that without getting regular testing to those of us who don't have symptoms, because we could spread it. It's basically anybody that's most vulnerable in our society. All the people with these. I didn't quite catch that. I'm saying that these people all have comorbidities, are generally the oldest, poorest, and sickest of us in our society. The chances that those of us that are not, or are not experiencing symptoms or whatever, will never interact with them again, as opposed to us getting regularly testing and taking ourselves out of the equation every so often, then if we can, we're pretty much choosing. I don't know how to do that without throwing them into camps or deciding it's fine that they all die.
You give them.
All right, go ahead, Mike. 1 second. You're getting really muddly. I can't hear your audio. Try say what you're gonna say, but say it pretty loud and clearly.
You let them self-quarantine, you give them a pass from work, you give them a pass from school, and you keep people away from them. And not forever, not for 20 years, not for 50 years. This is our first experience with this particular virus, but it is a coronavirus, just like the common cold, just like the SARS epidemic of 2009. This is why it's SARS-2. We know these things fizzle out, so let them stay at home. And yeah, you'd have to do testing, but this idea that it's the most important thing. How many SARS-1 tests did you take?
But
that killed 90 million people.
Yeah, but again, where? I mean, because I can't speak to China's response to, or any other government's response, but I know the amount of people are dying now, and I can see how other countries are dealing with it, and I can see how we're dealing with it. Go on. Sorry.
The amount of people dying has gone way down and it stayed way down. It's still high, and it's still going to affect people, and people should still take precautions.
I don't see your solution. You said that they don't need to, like the people in most vulnerable in our society have to stay home and stay quarantined and not forever. I don't see how they're not going to do it forever when there are going to be people in our society, healthy people, that can always spread it to them. If it just passes around to healthy people or those without comorbidities.
We can look at the death count. We can look at the provincial death count on the CDC website. We know it's much lower than it was just a few months ago, and we know it hasn't spiked at all. The cases have spiked, the death rate hasn't. We know this thing is fizzling out. We had a SARS-1. This is SARS-2. We had a SARS-1. We know coronavirus patterns. We know it doesn't last forever. So yes, maybe I don't know exactly how long you stay sheltered in place, but you can just take a look at the death rate. You know that it's much lower now than it was before. And maybe you start making your own decision when it's time to come out. And yeah, testing is important. I'm not saying never get a coronavirus test. I'm just saying the fact that you found it so egregious that these things weren't so readily available when that's never happened before. I mean, it's like, I can't believe
none of this has happened before.
Hasn't happened exactly correctly the first time.
Yeah, well, okay. So I think that if we had approached things like you, I don't know that I would have endorsed it, or that like you're suggesting. I don't know that I would think it was a good idea, but we didn't. We chose lockdowns, and we chose almost closing businesses, everybody wearing a mask.
Recession.
What's that?
It was a voluntary recession.
Yeah. So where is the testing in concert with that? That was my whole point. As long as you're doing it, you should do it, right?
Yeah, and I would say just I know that there are people that are against the ideas of lockdowns in general, but one thing that I was seeing as I was looking home to Michigan from here in Western Europe, one of the things that bothered me the most was that people were protesting the lockdown, whereas here we had lockdowns also. But the difference was if you couldn't work because of the lockdown, the government took care of you. And so if the US government was taking care of the citizens that couldn't work and not just giving them $1,200 and a little extra unemployment, then they wouldn't have had to protest the lockdown. So I felt like they were protesting the wrong thing. And that to me was a key issue, that here we could have lockdowns without it having an impact on someone's personal finances. And in the US, it just wasn't possible because the US just won't take care of its citizens. That was my view.
Alex, I absolutely agree with you. And the last thing I didn't get to read the paper today, the Times, but what I hear is that McConnell is not even thinking about a new stimulus until January. So what scares me for the lockdown is that I won't have money coming in to do what I need to do. I totally agree with you. I think you hit it on the head. Take care of your citizens. Everything we're talking about, healthcare, take care of your citizens. Everything we're talking about is U.S. not taking care of their citizens. And that's a problem. I totally agree with you. You're lucky you're over in
wanted to add, I agree with Alex somewhat that, if you were going to, I openly oppose the lockdowns. I think Mike has said why very well. But if the government is going to force lockdowns, if the government's going to force a business to close its doors, they should be compensated due to government forcing you out of business, out of work. But I also think more of that should have been handled at the state level because the states are the governments enforcing the lockdowns.
I think he was saying, I'm sorry, Jack. Yeah. I think he was saying that the government should support small businesses too, like if they're locked down, to make sure that they're all set. And I think that what President Trump is having a problem with, like Gretchen Whitmer, shutting things down to protect the citizens and taking care of them. So, she wants to do it the correct way, I think. And he's against that. The government, which goes back to what I have always ask, what does the government do then if you're not taking care of its citizens? If you need to lock it down to keep everybody safe, then you make sure everybody has enough money to get food, pay their bills, utilities, rent. So, I don't think he's been doing that.
Let's talk about Black Lives Matter. Very, very generally, how do we prevent it? How do things like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor? What kind of institutional changes can we make to prevent these things from happening? I think we all know that we'll never. Eradicating racism isn't something that you can't just pass a law and make it illegal to be racist. There will always be people like that. But what kind of changes can we make to curtail police violence against people of color? And I want to start that with keep that with Anthony.
Violence by the police. I think one of the first steps you could do is to start out, police live in the communities that they police.
Mm-hmm.
They're less likely to hurt somebody who might be their neighbor's kids or somebody who lives around the block.
Yep.
Detroit has a problem with most of the police officers not living here. And they tried to do a thing, and that happened way back with Coleman Young, tried to keep that going, and he was defeated at a state level or something. We're like, well, you don't have to live there. You have to have some skin in the game. You have to be invested in the community in which you live.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would go a long way to stop some of the silly problems that you have. You see that your neighbors is not criminals, and the people see the police is not. You don't see each other as adversaries. So,
and I would say I agree with you that the Detroit police have been a lot better in terms of. Well, I mean, I don't know. I definitely got the sense living here that, for a long time, I mean, even today, I don't like leaving Detroit because suburban cops are just bored. They'll just pull you over for nothing, and cops got, in Detroit have better things to do. But I will say I turned around that, and I was very early to this. I marched and everything, but in kind of national solidarity, I thought that Detroit was not didn't have a lot of the problems of the same cities. Obviously, it could be better, but I was turned around by some of these Detroit Will Breathe marches that were completely peaceful. That the cops started gassing people, beating them up, throwing them in paddy wagons for nothing, and yes, there were points where they weren't doing that, but then, I mean, it was Detroit, the Detroit protests were completely peaceful right through the line.
On that note, also, it's the same idea. Where do you draw the line between riots and protests? And I understand there's some of it that's very obvious. A protest is peaceful and a riot is violent, even if it's violence against property, looting, burning things down, etc. But the police don't seem to be able to make that easy of a distinction. So where do we draw the line? How do we excuse police treating peaceful protesters like they're rioting when they're not? And let's ask Mike.
I think you defined it well, and I don't think we do excuse it.
Okay. Fair enough.
Quick follow-up. I seem to remember somebody mentioning Joe Jorgensen getting some flack from some libertarians for tweeting Black Lives Matter. Is that again, I didn't do you were a last minute addition, so I didn't do a lot of research to this, but would you be able to speak on that?
Yeah, that's been an internal thing in the party, and I know where it came from. What it is Black Lives Matter is a weird phrasing because it can be a statement, which is true. It can be a movement, which is broader and against police brutality, or it's a specific 501c nonprofit organization which espouses, Marxist views. So when she said Black Lives Matter, she meant the statement that was true, and she meant it in support of the movement, which is against police brutality, but it was taken by some to be as a support of the specific 501c nonprofit organization, which espouses some Marxist views. And that wouldn't be a great thing for us to do, and we don't share all the beliefs of that organization, but yeah, it makes perfect sense for any member of the Libertarian Party to support the movement, which is against police brutality, and to say Black Lives Matter because all lives matter, but just like you don't say save all animals when you really mean save the whales, and you don't talk about all kinds of cancer during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, that whole thing. But I do think the solution comes from police responsibility, make settlement lawsuits come out of police pensions. That's the skin in the game. And qualified immunity. Justin Amash, the Libertarian congressman from Michigan's 3rd District, introduced the first tripartisan bill into Congress to end qualified immunity. And he also just has to end the war on drugs. You just completely reduce the number of interactions and reasons a police officer has to come in contact with anybody, because we already know that people of color who use drugs is proportionate to people of color in the general population. But we know that the number of people of color who get arrested for using drugs is double that. And we know that the number of people of color who get sentenced to jail for using drugs is quadruple that. We have to take away the incentive but the excuse for cops. Anything can smell like weed. I had a friend who joined the police academy, and they told him, hey, if you have one of those pine tree air fresheners, that's a symbol of a drug dealer, so you can pull over anybody with a pine tree air freshener. But by the way, if you see somebody who doesn't have a pine tree air freshener, that means they know that they're allowed to pull over people with pine tree air fresheners, and they're savvy drug dealers, and you can pull them over too.
Yeah, I imagine that this would be, there's aspects of this that are more libertarian. I think that civil liberties, obviously. But then I imagine not too many of you are on board with defund the police. Maybe because the idea of defunding the police is resources going into
I think we need a lot less. I think we need a lot less police, because once we stop enforcing victimless acts that shouldn't even be crimes in the first place, there'll be a lot less market need for cops. But I also think we should get rid of police unions too. I think that could be a huge solution to protecting cops that do bad things.
Anthony, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about the Detroit Police Department?
I will say that I have never ever been afraid of the police in Detroit, and I have had some silly things, some questionable things like frisked and hit in the crotch, like just to let you know that they were the police. But I never felt like I was going to be hurt seriously or shot by anybody in the Detroit Police Department. And I've known some guys who, join and don't live here. And some of their attitudes, I've known some crooked cops in my time. And that's not the way I feel immediately after I go across 8 Mile. Today, I went to watch the football game in my friend's garage, and I knew I had to get out before dark. I have had police harassment, like on 696, stopped by a cop, put face down on the side of the freeway with cars flying by you on the freeway for nothing, for just fucked with. I've understood the kind of the way that Detroit police fucked with you.
Yeah.
But I never felt like I was going to jail, that they were going to hurt me or even do anything to me, that they were just doing stupid police shit. That's bad. But I never felt my life was in danger like I do when I'm in the suburbs. So
specifically, Craig making the decision to gas, beat up, and jail protesters. You think he was just showing them who's boss, or?
I've never felt this way, but we've never had these kind of protests.
Craig is what
I thought a lot of that stuff was silly. I agree with you when all of that, the stuff, the protest was peaceful and stuff, anybody who was, who I would be afraid of in Detroit, they weren't in marches, any of the, I don't want to say I know big drug dealers, but any of those people, they weren't around or marching with anybody. These were,
although it was a lot of Detroiters, so there were a lot of Detroiters there.
But they were conscientious young people or older people or whatever. They weren't doing anything, and I think that how they got into trouble was why were there anyway? 2 cop cars at the most. When you put out a huge police presence, when you put out any kind of huge presence against another whatever, you're looking for a fight. You put 2 cops out, 2 cop cars to make sure they're all right, make sure, no one's running through them with cars, slowing down traffic. That's all you need. But when you put out a big force, then you're making it like it's a big confrontational thing when it doesn't have to be. I think that when you put out too much of a force, you make it a confrontational thing. That's what you were talking about Charlottesville earlier. When you've got a big protesting against, at the same time, you make it confrontational instead of putting it on a separate day or something. So I think that they made it bad, and it didn't have to be.
Anthony, when you vote, if you don't vote for Joe Biden, or you ain't black, or whatever Biden said to Charlemagne the God.
I agree.
Did you hear that?
I agree. You agree 100%. Okay.
I agree.
Even if, but let's say,
I thought it was funny.
I thought it was funny, but I agree. I like that he's trying to be, and I know that Obama's just started doing some ads with him, which I find funny. Like Christy just showed me something where Obama made a jump shot.
You don't even see your eyes anymore. There's no eyes.
I agree, because I think that, and when I was talking about that Trump could have sailed if he didn't do anything, I don't think he had to bring race in as overtly as he did to get a second term. But I don't think I give him enough credit to be as smart. I think he's only for himself, so he doesn't have an ideology. He's not racist. He's only for himself. I think his biggest thing right now is how is he going to get out of the huge amount of money he owes in 2023. Doesn't care about anything else. And that's how everything is played, like a dumb person. Because if you're smart, he would have done it right. He'd get a second term. He'd figure that out.
I believe in... Oh, go on.
A follow-up to just with the Biden statement, the you ain't black. Agree or disagree aside, I mean, how do you feel about a 77-year-old white guy determining what makes you black or not?
I think and I like that question. I think that a lot of white people have a whole like, hey, I'm down, I'm hanging with whatever that makes me a thing. And he's definitely riding the Obama coattails, like, hey, I'm down. I was with the only black, whatever. And I'm going to give him a little bit of that. I think he's too old. I think Trump's too old. I think, if he was my dad, I'd be putting him in a home. They're all too old to go. But I'm going to give him that he thinks he's down because he ran with Obama. That I can't even begin to express for, and I'm not very old, I'm only 56, but I think how big a thing that is for a black guy to have become president. was born in 64. It was civil rights, 68, King died, Lyndon Johnson stuff was, right around there too. So my parents didn't have the unimpeded right to vote until I was born in my lifetime. Yeah. That's just crazy to me. They had voting restrictions in my lifetime. It's amazing. So that's why Black people are just, because let me tell you, I wanted him to go in and blow shit up. And I hope that Biden goes in and blows shit up like, you know what? I'm 77, I'm old. I'm just gonna say, healthcare for everybody. Let's just do it. I'm just gonna try to push it through and see.
He's not going to, Anthony.
I hope he should. He should. He's gonna die.
I agree.
And I don't even know if he's gonna make it a whole term.
It's appropriate that I found out that you're a boomer just in this conversation, because I think that was actually the turning point for.
How did you not know that, Jack?
I mean, I thought you were Generation X. I thought you were too young.
I was old as hell.
I knew you were old as hell, but Gen Xers are old as hell. So I think the turning point for the Biden campaign. I was on the train with Bernie where I was thinking at the time, we're gonna have to offer more than we're not Trump. Like I thought, we got to actually offer something. And Biden had this very clear strategy early on: make it about character, make it about, I am just better than Trump. I'm not going to offer too much, but I'm better than this guy. That's all it is. And I thought that's not going to work at all. What a dummy. Then people started voting. And part of the turning point was South Carolina, Jim Clyburn, and older African Americans who this guy worked for, he worked for the first Black president, and they liked that. And they thought this guy's boss was the first African American president. And, the Democratic Party is an institution we trust. We're going to rally. They're rallied around him. We're going to do that. It did. And all of us young people and millennials and even young Black people thought, that's never going to work. And that's why I'm frankly saying, if Hillary Clinton had this philosophy and campaign strategy in 2016, I probably would have been more receptive to it, because if you don't offer me anything, at least admit, don't, you can piss on my head, just don't tell me it's raining, tell me what's going on. And that's, I think, why the "you ain't Black" comment was funny to me, because he was acknowledging, it's we've got this voter base. They're we know most of them are loyal, and we know that the millennials don't vote like the boomers do. So you better fucking get in line, or else you're going to get another 4 years of Trump. It was funny to me.
It was funny to me. And I'm going to tell you why, and my sum up, why I'm voting for Biden completely. Because I'm hopeful, because I'm optimistic, and because I've hoped that he's learned from his time with Obama, that Obama should have pushed more.
But again, I don't think he's going to do any of that, Anthony. I mean, he's as much as said he's not going to.
But I'm telling you what I hope he does. I hope that somebody comes to talk to him and say, look, you're an old dude. You're not going to live that long. If you want to be more, you won president. You didn't do anything. If you want to be more than just some guy who's president, whatever, and just he was the vice president for Obama, this is your chance. Fuck it. You're going to be dead. That is why I'm for Biden. As an old ass who's about to die, what would you do? Fuck it. What are you going to do to me? I'm president. I'm going to push all of this through. I'm going to help everyone, whatever. Somebody bring me my whiskey. That is my hope.
I just don't think he has that fucking energy like you might hope he does.
When
Andrew, what do you hope is going to happen if Trump wins? What do you hope is going to happen?
I hope a lot more is done about breaking up monopolistic organizations. I think we have a lot of vertical monopolies in the tech world. I also hope that that he does a lot more with cutting taxes and cutting spending.
Mike, what do you when this is all over, what do you most look forward to?
Hopefully, for the good of the country, a slowdown on the Democratic side and a recalibration on the GOP side.
Okay. And then we've got 90 million Americans that have already voted. We've got Donald Trump saying it should be decided on the day. When he knows that's not going to happen, everyone like in the room knows that's not going to happen. And then we have Kavanaugh essentially saying the same thing in a decision by the Supreme Court. So this is my real outro question is, do you think there's going to be a power grab, on the day? Do you think that it's going to be kicked up to the Supreme Court? And do you think that there's going to be a civil war? That's my real outro hypothetical question. So I'm going to start with Andrew. Do you think things are going to get hairy?
I definitely, my stance on things being finished the day of, I don't think the counting needs to be done the day of. I definitely think any votes that are received after the deadline, like mail-in ballots, I don't think those should be counted unless if they're postmarked after. In terms of will it be kicked up to the Supreme Court?
Why not mail-in ballots?
What?
Sorry, why don't you want mail-in ballots to be counted?
They can be counted as long as they're postmarked before the election date.
Okay, so you're fine with counting all those, even if it takes.
It takes longer to count them, but they're still in. So,
what do you think about Trump signaling that he doesn't want to count them?
I don't agree with him.
Okay, fair enough. Mike, do you think it's going to get hairy?
I think we have the possibility of seeing a lot of what we saw in Florida in 2000. I hope we don't. I think it's going to be pretty clear on election night, but if for whatever reason it does go to recount, just anecdotally from what I've heard from other people who have worked at recounts and ballot counters, that when there is a recount of any kind, it's about 1% of the in-person ballots that get thrown away, but 25% of the mail-in ballots that get thrown away. And I think that really helps Trump, since it's Biden supporters who have been mostly, for lack of a better word, conservative on the COVID guidelines, and for lack of a better word, Trump supporters that have been liberal with them. So I think the Biden supporters mailed in more ballots, and I think the Trump supporters are going to show up in person more frequently. And if it is from what I understand about recounts, I think the recounts are going to start to tip the scale in a different direction, and it will change the outcome of the election. Hopefully we don't have to really have any of those, so it won't call that into question. I don't think we're going to get that. I think as far as like,
you think there's going to be a civil war
like that.
Are you afraid of a civil war at all? Like, part of you?
Part of me, yeah, but not a big part.
All right. Anthony, do you think it's going to get, what are we talking, 2000 level or far beyond, or how bad do you think it could get?
I don't think it's going to be as bad at all. I think that the decision will pretty much be made, if not that night, if Florida comes in, a few nights after. I think that the people who actually are running the Republican Party, Mitch McConnell, has got what he's want. He's got the judges in place. He's tired of Trump's ass too. He doesn't need them. He has his judge in place. He has the majority on the Supreme Court. He doesn't need to do that. He's going to let whatever comes, whatever ride. Trump will make a lot of noise. That's what he does. But it'll be up to McConnell and the Senate to actually make that go. And I think that they've got what they want, and they're done with him now. There's no more, they're not going to back him. They're not going to back him on anything like that. Whatever the vote says, the vote says. And that's it. And I'm absolutely sure.
Okay.
They're done with him. They've got what they wanted.
Yeah. So
they want to be rid of him too. So.
Well, yeah. So you're predicting Biden winning handily, maybe Florida.
I hope that he wins. If Trump wins, he wins. But if it says Biden wins, I know that the establishment Republicans can accept that because they have the Supreme Court, they have the federal judges in place, they have what they want. They are tired of his antics too. No one wants all of that. They don't want all of that ding-a-ling stuff, you know? They think that Biden will be just enough moderate thing that they have the courts. They don't care. So Trump's going to make noise. We see that that's what he does. I think that this is a chance for the rest of the Republicans to get away from him. They don't need him anymore. They've got Amy Coney Barrett, and they don't need him anymore. And they're done with him. So if he wins, great. They'll continue to work with him. If he doesn't, they don't need him.
Okay. The only cap-offs I wanted to make was the only thing I wanted to say about the debates was best strategy ever, try to give your opponent an infectious disease. Kudos to Trump on that one. I did do the fact check on COVID-19, and everything's saying that it takes that a lab could take 24 hours to rub your test, but could be for several days. And I'm still seeing the figure for 3 to 7 days come in, which isn't too different from the 5 to 10. But again, we've got 3 million rapid tests coming to Michigan. So hopefully that changes. But it maintains as my biggest gripe that I'm still seeing these figures. We have covered a lot. Yes. Thank you,
about
Pitts.
the old people.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Christie's iPad. I'm sorry, Anthony. Yeah, we are going to see what happens this week. I will link you all when we have the chance. But until then, stay safe. Tip your bartender. Have a good night.
Gentlemen, have a good election.
What a cliffhanger. I hope everything turns out okay with the election.
Right. That's another thing. We were lucky that none of these issues were ever fully resolved.
What, Jack? No, Jack, you can't spread that stuff around. I mean, Joe Biden won the election. Even the court disputed votes aren't enough to flip the result.
I mean, but did he, Pitts? Did he?
Yeah.
There's still been no concession.
So what?
Trump fired the CISA director, Chris Krebs. He's bringing troops home from Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah, but Jack, I mean, he tweeted that, okay? He tweets a lot of things, you know?
I don't know, but I think that Trump's trying to be the little engine that cooed. Maybe Bernie would have won, but maybe Bernie would have been cooed easier too. And that's why I'm hopeful, like Anthony was. Hopefully Biden doesn't get cooed. Hopefully Biden will think he's going to die soon. Hopefully he will say, fuck it. Let's get these people testing and healthcare and infrastructure. But there will always be a little voice in my head that's also like Mike. These people have given us no reason to trust them, and it's nearly impossible to now. All I know is that it'll all have been worth it, meaning COVID-19, 2016, Bernie, Hillary, everything, if they drag Donald Trump out of the White House kicking and screaming.
That would make all of it worth it.
The whole, yes.
Well,
I stand by that take. I stand by it.
Only time will tell, my man. But wait, before we sign off, the suspense has been killing me. What were the results of your test?
Well, it was a 7-day test, so you'll just have to wait until the next episode.
You were saying just
No,
earlier.
I'm joking. I'm negative. I am negative.
Okay.
I didn't infect any of you people out there. Thanks for watching. Thanks to everyone involved. We all worked really hard on organizing this, finding people, editing. Pitts, how many times did I say, fuck it, I'm going to cancel this?
You said it a lot of times.
A lot of times, yes, because it was always some setback or whatever. If we didn't have a full panel or we didn't have everything and everyone in place, this concept does not work. So thank you, Anthony, Andrew, Gabe, and Mike, and thank you, Pitts. I really appreciate
truly a team effort. Jack, thank you so much for having me. It's been a roller coaster, and that is to say it's been fun because I like roller coasters. So thank you to Jack. Sorry?
I like water rides. I get sick on roller coasters. This year's been a little too roller coaster, not water ride enough for me.
That was worth interrupting my outro. So thank you to all of our listeners. Thank you to Jack. Thank you to the panel. And look out for more Spar Talk coming your way maybe sometime. And until then, take care, everybody. Thank you.